Here we are in another Patreon tutorial here. Here is what I'm going to show you how to be making. It's a scene from my short film, Mitosis. It's one of my favorites. It's like this weird coral grape thing. I don't really know what it is, but it's, I don't know, it makes me happy. And so it's actually pretty easy to do. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it start to finish. So this will probably be a shorter tutorial just because it's a pretty easy thing to do. So let's get started. Let's put down a geonode. We'll call this balloon thing, or whatever you want to call it. Let's put down a box, and let's make it like 8.8 tall. And let's give it let's get some axis divisions of like 41 and 4 and 13, something like that. I don't know. Cool. Okay, so let's put it in a twist. And let's just align this. So if we hover over it and hit enter, and then G on the keyboard, it gives you this little gizmo thing, and you can hold control to quantize it to 45-degree angles. And let's just move this to the bottom, and then grab this guy. Oh shit, where are you? There we go. Move that to the top, like that, and then let's give it a twist of like 98.5 degrees, something like that. Okay, and then we're gonna put down another twist. Plug that in, okay, but this time, actually I could probably just copy this because it's already set up the way I want. Put it another twist. I can uncheck the twist. I actually just want the taper. And what we're going to be doing for the taper, let's do 1.147. And let's do a squish of 2, so it kind of boulders out in the middle, and leave it like that. Cool. Okay. So that's kind of our base form. We're going to stick a bunch of little balloons to it. And now we want to animate it. So let's put another twist down. And this one, let's, hold on 1 second, I'm just checking my notes here. Okay, so let's move this like that, move this up a bit, and then we're gonna twist it like 305 degrees, like that. And we can move this kind of up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna animate it from the top to the bottom. So it comes in and then goes out, like that. Cool. So let's do that at maybe frame like 43. We're gonna give ourselves a little bit of heads here to allow these balloons to expand to their full size. And then we're gonna animate this thing down. So let's have it go from, so we're gonna go to capture origin, hold Alt, click there, and then let's go to like 144 and just animate this down like that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we got our little animation. It's gonna give us a little bit of lead time. Cool, great. Okay, now let's subdivide this. And we'll just leave it at 1. And then we're gonna put some normals on it. Let's make sure it's got normals, cool. Okay, and then we're going to scatter some stuff on it. So we want to time shift this and leave it at frame 1. So that's gonna hold it at frame 1. It's no longer animating. And then we're gonna scatter on the time shifted. And let's put like 500 on there. And I'm gonna leave relaxed iterations on because I want them to be somewhat regular on there. And the little trick that I wanna do is you wanna make sure you go to this output attributes and click on primnum attribute and prim UV attribute. So we're gonna, if I just play this right now, well, nothing happens because it's time shifted. But what I want is a, what is it called? Attribute interpolate. So you want the destination geometry and the source of attributes to interpolate. And actually, I think I want this the other way, so hit Shift R and do that. and it should move without having these, there we go. So see how these are all stuck? They're not like moving around. So if I had just gone straight here and bypassed this, see how they all wiggle and move? You don't want that. You want these to have a consistent, stay in the exact spot that it was before. Cool, okay, that's great. The next thing we want to do is put down an attribute randomize. Okay, and the attribute we want to randomize is p-scale. And the way we can visualize that is if we click on this little checkerboard thing and hold it, we can go display particles as lit spheres. And it shows me what that p-scale is. So right now they're all the same. So I want to do, p-scale is a one-dimensional value. Let's go between 0.01 and 0.1. So that is my p-scale. Great. Okay. Now, let's put down a sphere. Oops, I don't want to have that connected there. And let's make it change it to polygon and give it a frequency of 10. I wanted to give it some good, a good little amount of detail there. And let's create a group, and we're going to create a pin group. And it's going to be points. And let's go enable keep in bounding regions. We're going to go bounding sphere. And then we'll just kind of move this down so that it grabs like only the bottom ones. So maybe like minus 1.43. No. Just something. Let's get like just a few. There. Okay, and we're going to call this pin. So if we just name it here, it automatically gives the name there because that's the $OS function there. Okay, and then we're going to use a UV project because we're going to want to texture this later. And let's use polar. And yeah, that's pretty much what we want. Maybe we can adjust this a little bit. Let's see what we can do here. Trying to get these a little more even. Something like that. Cool. Okay. And then we're going to copy the points. So we'll put this here, that there, boom. Okay, let me turn off, make sure this goes back to points so we're not displaying all of our points as, circles. Okay, so we've got this. Let's play it, see what happens. There we go, we've got our motion. Great. One last thing, I want to put down a, what is it called? Class? No, it's connectivity. Put down a connectivity. Actually, I'll put it here. And what this is going to do is give us a class attribute, which will color each individual connected piece of geometry, a little island here, a different color. And we can use that in our shader so that we can have each one be a different color if we want. So that'll be useful for later. Okay, great. So let's type vellum balloon, vellum configure balloon. Okay, it's gonna take a minute to like do some stuff. So it gives us a cloth constraint and a pressure constraint. So the cloth constraint basically dictates how stiff or floppy the cloth is, and the pressure constraint basically dictates how much this thing inflates. Okay, so I played around with this for a while, and I found that a couple values worked pretty well here, but you can do whatever you want. So for the stiffness, so first thing I want to do is actually make sure I pin these points that I created earlier. So it takes a second, and the pin type should be permanent, and make sure it's match animation. So what that's going to do is it's going to tell the vellum simulation to pin those points to this animation. So it's going to drag them around and spin them around while the rest of it remains like cloth and floppy. Okay, so I found that a stiffness value of 1 and 1,000 there worked really well. And I think the bend stiffness, a value of 1 and 1e minus 7 seemed to work pretty well for me. But you're going to get very different results depending on what numbers you put in there. Okay, and then the pressure constraint. Let's see, I put this to 1, and then I change this to 1,000,000. And then here's the trick here, is you want to output a group. So the group here is going to be called P-stretch. You can name it whatever you want. I just like P-stretch because it represents pressure. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put down a vellum solver. Okay, so let's dive inside, and we're going to put down this vellum constraint properties. So what this does is it allows you to adjust constraints dynamically in the simulation. So I only want it to affect the pressure constraints. I don't want it to affect this cloth here at all. I only want it to affect this pressure strength, this rest length scale basically. I want this to increase over time so that it expands like a balloon. So we're going to check on group, and we're going to click P-stretch so it only affects the group we created. And then we're going to go rest length scale, and between 1, so I'll put a keyframe here, and then let me turn off this thinking thing so that it doesn't try to simulate when I scrub ahead. We'll go to 72, and I'll put this to like 60. So it gets really, I want it to get much, much bigger. Okay? And then I want to put down maybe some pop force here to have these kind of wiggle around a little bit. So pop force. So this is just a basic animated noise that just kind of gives it makes it kind of jiggle around. So give it a higher amplitude and like 0.62, something like that. Okay? Okay. And then let's see is there anything on the solver that I need to do? Forces. I think that I turned off gravity. Yeah. So gravity, if you go into the forces tab of the solver, just change this to 0 because I want this to look like it's in an underwater environment and everything's just sort of like weightless and floating around. So we're just going to turn that off. Okay. And then I am going to run a cache here. So we'll put down a file, or let's do vellum IO. This will be our cache file. We'll just call this balloon thing, cache. Okay, and I want this to cache between 1 and 240 or something like that. So actually let's do, because where does the animation stop? So I'm going to have it go, the animation starts at frame 72, goes to 144, and then once it's done, these are all going to kind of wiggle around. So maybe like 192. I don't need to do the full 240. Save myself some time here. So delete channels, right click delete, and go 192. Okay, so I'm going to pause the recording, and then I'm going to hit save the disk, and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so I've got my test here, and I did actually change a few things, which I'll go over here in a moment. So here's kind of what I've got. Everything inflates, and then it twists. Cool. Okay, so the things I changed, I noticed I actually ran this sim the first time, and the first thing I changed was the pin points. Instead of going down below, right here in the Z, I just moved it in the negative X here just a little bit. So that way you can see if you copy the points. I put a color here with the group set to pin. So it's pinning it to, let me just template this guy. It's pinning it closer to the actual thing. On the other one was, I think it was pinning it on the outside, and it was just kind of screwing up my simulation a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's the first thing I did. And then I also changed a little bit on the P scale here. I found that the ones that were really tiny just weren't really inflating. They just became these little skinny lines, and I think the solver was having trouble computing it. So I changed the minimum value to 0.05, the maximum value to 0.2. I think that's pretty much all I did. Oh, no, that's not true. The last thing I did was the little spin move was happening too fast and making them flatten out. So I took my twist and I moved the final point from 0.144 all the way up to 0.192. So I just slowed down the twist a little bit, and that gave me this. Cool. Okay, so we've got this, and what I would do is probably just start it somewhere here. So let's just grab this and go time shift. And we'll go $F plus 48. So that way, when we're at frame one, it's actually going to be at frame 48. So where they're already inflated. Let's just hit play on that. Maybe like plus, I don't know, 60. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about lighting and shading. Well, in my example, I had multiples of these, and the camera kind of arranged, or I had multiple of these, and they're kind of offset. So the way you can do that, let's just put down a null, and we'll just call this balloon animated. Make this black. Okay, and then let's just grab a time shift. Let's merge these here, and let's go transform. Actually, let's set up a camera first. So let's come up and type in camera. Let's bring this back a bit, something like that. Maybe let's rotate it just a bit. Okay, and then come in here. And then we can take this one. Move it over. Move it back a bit. I'll put down a time shift. $F. Let's go like, I don't know, $F plus 10. Something like that. So I just kind of time offset these. Basically, that's all I did was just grab a few of these. Let's move this down in Y a little bit so we don't see that bottom part. And I did the same thing just a few times. That's it. Let's grab this. Let's move it over. And let's maybe rotate it on the y-axis by like 180 degrees so we see a different side of it. This one. Maybe let's rotate this one by like 90 or minus 90. So that way we just kind of vary up the ones we see. Something like that. Move this over. That's basically all I did. And the time shift this guy, let's make it plus 40, I don't know. Okay, so that's kind of how I set it up, and I just animated the camera forward a little bit. But for now, let's just work on this one. And I'm going to put down a material. Put it here. I like to make these blue. And we'll just type in /matte/balloon. And that doesn't exist yet, so we will have to go into our MatNet. And again, I always like to set up these little control things. So if I hit Control 2 here, and then go back to the object and hit Control 1, then I can just hit 2 and 1 on the keyboard and bounce between those two. And then I'll do my out context, I'll do Control 3. So 3 takes me to my render, 2 takes me to my materials, 1 takes me to my object. Super handy, makes your workflow super quick. I do it every time. Okay, let's put down a light just for now. Let's just put down an RS. Let's just do a sunlight for now. Okay, and let's fire up our render view and see what we get. Cool. So looks like exactly like what I would expect. Let's rotate this a little bit. Let's get this directly above because I want it to look like the ocean. Well, for now, this is just for lighting. I'll do the actual lighting later, but this is just for the texturing basically. And let me turn off, can I make the background horizon height? Just get that thing out of there. I don't want to look at it. Okay, cool. Okay, the other thing I want to do is I want to go attribute remap or rename, I think. And I want to take class, so it would be a primitive, no, I'll attribute, let's see, what do I want to do? Basically, I want to take this class attribute that I have here, and I want to change it to color. So let's go color, let's drop a color node down. Let me turn this off so I don't crash it on accident or something. And I want to stop visualizing class. And let's turn off wireframe mode. And the UVs, okay. So I want to go random from attribute, and the attribute is class. Great. So now my class is stored as a color. For some reason I have trouble bringing the class attribute into Redshift, so I just have to change it to color like that to be able to manipulate it. Okay, and then let's just go rs material builder in our material context and name this balloon so that it matches with our other thing, with our material that we set up. Let's fire this up again. Cool. So let's mess around with it a little bit. So first thing, let's bring in that attribute. So rs point attribute, and we've got CD as the default. Let's just plug that into the base color. And it always goes black. You always need to refresh it the first time just to get it to work. So there we go. So I don't really like those colors, but what I can do is I can drop down a ramp and I can make them whatever I choose. So let's try infrared, maybe magma. That's kind of cool. I don't remember what I used in the actual thing, but you can just pick your own, do whatever you want. I think I like magma for now. Cool. And then I want these to be kind of not super shiny. Let's maybe give it some roughness like that. And then how about we give it a little bit of subsurface scattering? So just kind of turn that on. Make it feel kind of like grapes or something. And the color, maybe we'll make a copy of this and put this into the multi-scatter color so that it's putting out the same type of color. And let's bring the scale down. Something like that. Okay, and then I want these to feel, I don't know, kind of like soft and iridescent somehow. So let's put down, I like this thin film, or no, the sheen. Basically, it's like a Fresnel. Kind of gives it this sort of like white around the edges, makes it feel really kind of fun there. Let's make it like yellow, or I don't know, sometimes I like to change the color just from white, but something like that. Maybe just a little less. Let's try adjusting the subsurface. So whenever I'm texturing weird stuff like this, I always just kind of play around until I get a result I like. Something like that, maybe. Maybe I can even put a color correct. I like this color correct node a lot because I can just pop it in there in between these two and just swing the hue around to see what I get. It's not doing shit. That's probably because there. It's fun. Nice. So something like that could be fun, and maybe I'll give it a little bit of a texture. So let's try try putting down a texture here. So I like to do. Let me shift this to. I have basic. One of my little basic workspaces here, so I can use my OD asset library. I'll do some tutorials on OD assets or OD tools. It's a really great plugin that allows you. It's kind of like if you have Grayscale Gorilla for Cinema 4D. It allows you. Does a ton of stuff, but allows you to like visualize your textures and all your HDRIs and stuff. So I'm going to use GSG plus textures, and then I'll use, I don't know, frost maybe, or no, let's do smudges. bring that up. Let's try this one here. So you can just drag it in. This is really a great workflow there. And then let's put this into the reflection roughness. Let's try that. And remember, we have UVs, so everything should be working properly there. And let's change this to raw, because it should be raw. Let me just... Okay, let me try spinning my sun around a little bit so I can kind of see what's happening here. Okay, so we've got these smudges on there, and we can kind of adjust the gamma to make it so it's way too rough. I wonder if I put this in a bump map, if that would do anything. Oh, way too much bump. Let's try 0.01. 0.005. It's kind of nice. Gives you just a little bit of texture. 0.003, something like that. How about that? That's basically what I did for that. So that's kind of how you can texture it. And the cool thing is you can actually use these, you can get wild with this stuff. You can take this particle attribute lookup here. Let's make a copy of this, and let's make this grayscale. And you can put down another standard material. So if you didn't want to make coral, you just wanted to make something weird, let's call this metal. And we'll use a RS material blender. Okay, put this here. So this is the base material. This is the layer 1 material. And the blend color would be layer 1 blend color. So let's solo this guy. And you can kind of move these back and forth to isolate things. Let's get these, just get a few of them there, like that. And we're using that as a mask now between two materials. So we've got this second one here. Let's refresh this just in case. Cool. Let's make this, let's turn up the metalness, and let's make this like a coppery goldish. It's kind of fun, right? So, okay, and then you could put this bump map in there too. Overall, where is it? Bump input. Let's give it some texture. Maybe put this in the roughness as well. Reflection, roughness. So you can see you can have fun with it. You could continue doing that. You could put this, duplicate this ramp and change the knots to find different ones, to isolate different ones and make those a different material, which is pretty cool, right? So I think that's pretty much it for that part. So I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Let me turn off the light here. Let's put down like a RS spotlight. No, not light sun. RS light. And let's move this here so I can see what I'm doing here. Let's move this up. And let's change it to a spotlight. Change the intensity. So it kind of feels like we're underwater. And let's see, make the shadow just a little bit softer. And maybe let's go hit 3 on the keyboard and do, go to redshift redshift. Let's try advanced volume scattering, turn that on. Something like that. Okay, and then, so I've changed the tint color to be this kind of soft blue to kind of make it feel a little more like water. And then let's put in let's do another geo here. We'll call this background. Put this here, put a grid, and we'll move it so you can see, let's see. Move it behind this guy, like that. Let's make it bigger, hit T on the keyboard, or Y on the keyboard. Come on, stupid thing, it's finicky, whatever. All right, I'll just do it here, make it really big. Okay, and then put down a UV project. Just do initialize to best plane, and then we'll go up. And this is kind of what it looks like. I want this to be excluded from this light here. So I want to go Objects, Enable Light Message Associations, and go copy this, and then hit All, or a little asterisk means All, and then the little caret is Accept, and then we'll hit Command, oh shit, I gotta copy that again. All, except this one, there. Let's refresh that a little bit. Okay, let's see if this works. I want to try and put a material on this to have it glow in the background, so it looks kind of like we have murky blue water. So let's go render /matte /BG, and then we'll go RS material builder. Okay, cool. And then let's refresh this. And let's try putting some emission on it. Let's go 1. Yeah, that works. So let's put this like, something like that. Now, why are all my little spheres black? That's really strange. I wonder if I turn my background off. Let's try. Yeah, it should not look like that. I wonder if I put this in some emission. Overall, where are you? Emission color. So the color is coming through. It's just like not really showing up because of this spotlight. Okay, it works when I turn off this light mesh association thing. So maybe I just need to move this back a bit. So let's try taking this background, and we're gonna move it way back so that it does not have any light on it, and we'll just make it way bigger. Something like that. That's better. Okay, now I can see my colors. Mostly. Okay. try putting another light in here just for fill or something. I know that's not how oceans work. The oceans are lit by the sun or a single light source. But I want to see if I can get some more color out of this. Let's move this here, make this a little smaller. Okay, let's turn off its volumetric contribution. I only want the one above it to contribute. It actually looks a little better. I know it's kind of unrealistic for an ocean, but it ends up looking a little better. So, cool. That's pretty much it for this. I mean, you can play around with it. You can change the numbers on it. You can change your colors, play around with textures, but that's the basis of the effect. It's really very simple. Let me turn this merge on and see what happens with all three. Yeah, I'd probably need to relight it for that. But yeah, that's pretty much the effect. That's how I did it. Very, very simple effect, just a bunch of copied spheres on a moving surface. As you watch more of my tutorials, you'll probably notice a trend that I like to just animate geometry in weird ways or interesting ways, and then just stick a bunch of stuff to it, whether that's spheres or flowers or particles, and it ends up giving you really interesting looks. So play around with this stuff, try different numbers, see if you can get some interesting results. But yeah, have fun with it. Thanks.